the union participates in any curriculum. I think they participate as teachers, not union members.
So the union representatives that show up at the school board meetings are only there to, what is their purpose?
I don't think, have we had any union? Well, we've had them there as teachers, and they've come, the union president is Liz Hadsma, and she's come before us to present a trip, an 8th grade trip, but not as a union member, but as a teacher.
Are the teachers a part of or members of the NEA?
We can't know that, so I don't know how many.
You can't know that?
No, I have no idea how many are part of the union.
Okay, thank you.
It's my understanding that we can't know that. Maybe I better clarify that. That's what I've been told by somebody, but I don't know where I got that information.
Can I ask another question?
No way.
I was looking at your mission statement on the web. It says, "The mission of the Wakefield School District, in partnership with families and community, is to ensure that all students master the knowledge and skills necessary to maximize individual potential academically, socially, and emotionally, and become successful contributors to their local and global society." Who added the global society on there, and who came up with the mission statement?
Peter was the global.
Peter K. wanted the global.
Peter
Kasperzik
Okay.
wanted the global society.
The NEA is part of UNESCO. So the federal government has agreements with UNESCO, and the NEA has courses that teachers take, like the transformative global education, engaging our affiliates and school systems.
Mhm.
And I was wondering, do you ever notice these type of initiatives ever coming to the school?
I have never noticed it.
We check their trips and what courses they're taking, every single one of them. And I've never seen anything remotely connected to that.
Oh, so they would have to actually tell you that they're taking a
They put
course.
down where they
Yeah.
go and what they
Of
did.
course, yeah.
You know, at the beginning of our meeting, before it starts, we're doing the manifest review, and what we're doing is reviewing all the bills to pay. And there may be a bill there for teachers' professional development, and it's actually an application form, and is what we're looking at.
And the course they're taking, or whatever they're taking, and the time, and the amount, the whole bit. And I've never seen anything like that either, that we described.
Can I ask another question?
Sure, you're on a roll.
I just wanted to know, have you ever heard of the International Baccalaureate Curriculum?
I have from, I think you
There's
mentioned it.
Yeah, I think I
There's
did.
That's where
actually,
I've heard it.
there's actually a bill in right now. I'm not sure if it's a Senate bill or a House bill addressing that. It's new.
It's a House bill, Representative Pettingill.
That's where I just saw it. We get the New Hampshire School Board Association, Mark Joyce sends
Yeah.
us the different legislative things that are happening. Yeah, that's
So what is it?
It's a international curriculum that, again, UNESCO, which is part of the United Nations, has agreements with the federal government to start it in schools. In New Hampshire, there's a fight to remove it. Now, it's very difficult to go a very long way to explain this, but the curriculum is, I would assume it to be very anti-American. And if you have free time, look up the International Baccalaureate Curriculum and read some of it, and actually connect with some of the other teachers in the other schools who refuse to teach it. I mean, it's very involved in international globalism. Its basic function is to create good little global citizens. And I'm not kidding, but that's what its goal is. Now, of course, it's masked under, making kids more globally
Sensitive.
aware and sensitive and everything else, but it's very much connected with the international community. And since our republic is a closed system that helps protect everybody's liberty, some people are against having an international body, especially the United Nations or UNESCO, involved in our children's education. And there is a bill that Lori Pettingill, I believe, co-sponsored, that is going to make it illegal for them to do that.
can I say, I think that the globally in that mission statement is more referring to being able to compete globally with other children, from other countries, and more in that fashion, to compete, not to have an international curriculum. I think it was more to, in that.
Yeah. Wasn't that connotation, it was more, I think his idea was that we would, our standards would be as high as any other country, and we'd meet those goals that any other country has set, and be viable candidates for jobs, over and above what maybe foreign countries would be doing.
You said
That's my thought.
you said the key word, you said what other countries set, standards that other countries set. But what happens is, the citizen of Wakefield really has no say over what happens in another country. But since our federal government has involvement with those the international community, somehow those programs seem to creep in without anybody being able
I'll say
to.
competitive, we want to be competitive in this world. I think that's a better term.
Based on a fear of the Chinese always being smarter than our kids.
My last question would be, do you feel that the federal involvement, NECAP, No Child Left Behind, etc., is hindering the teachers teaching the children, or is it helping?
It's a double-edged sword. I think in some areas it helps, other areas it hinders. I mean, if somebody wants to go into detail on that, please do.
It's making us more accountable.
It
It's
is.
definitely making us
It's
more
also-
accountable. That's the good side of it. The bad side of it is that they've set a bar that's practically impossible to meet. But, 100% proficient is not going to happen, I don't believe, in any school district, in any state in this country.
Judy, who we're gonna be more accountable to, ourselves or the Iron Maker?
I think it made us, more aware of where, the areas we could improve in, I think is how it's helping.
I think it made us look at the individual student as opposed to a classroom, gearing our mission to the individual, making sure each individual child gets the education they deserve in the way they can process it.
But it is a double-edged sword, though, because it also affects our results. It gives you false results, because when you look at it, you're using the results of the entire school, and when you have that area of each child that needs more help, when you average it all out, it looks, we're not meeting AYP, and it is a double-edged sword. It does help, it does show a better light, but it also hinders us in many other ways. So it's,
We'll be sad to see it go.
And a number of states are getting exemptions from No Child Left Behind.
it's very
New
different.
Hampshire is actually working on that, but they need to come up with a teacher assessment in order to be able to file for the exemption. So
And we
hopefully,
Gail presented that in Concord today,
Today.
the teacher assessment. So,
hopefully we can get an exemption at some point.
Al, Larry, I had Al put his hand up just before you did it. You'll be next. Go ahead, Al.
Anyway, I've heard enough about the government. I don't think much of it myself. If you trust the government, ask an Indian. And the government's got their hands in too many of our affairs. I don't care if the school system, our town affairs, or our state affairs, or anything else. They, as far as I'm concerned, do not belong there. And that's my opinion. I don't want somebody telling me how to run my life.
But as soon as you accept their grant money, Al,
I don't get their grant money. Tell me how to get it, and I'll grab every cent I can get.
And they'll
I
have you,
paid enough in there in my lifetime.
as soon as you take it, they'll have you in their web.
I just want to get the whole goddamn Social Security check in one lump sum.
You know how much taxes they'll take out of that? Go ahead, Larry.
My question is very fundamental. Do they teach in today's classes, the teachers teach their student, is there a time frame for teaching them manners and good grooming? Not at all? Do they have a time frame where someone could come in to an audience of students to teach them some of these things?
What'd you say, good grooming?
It's funny, because that question was asked about manners and so on and so forth at our last school board meeting, and the kindergarten teachers said that the first portion of the year, they spend teaching the kids the manners and to sit down and say please and thank you and that kind of thing. So it's having to be taught in the schools now. So they're getting it in kindergarten and probably in first grade. What they're doing with it later on, your guess is as good as mine.
Kids
So-
used to come to school socially ready for kindergarten and first grade. They come to school now, and we're teaching them the social skills.
So there's not a common decency code or anything like that in the schools whatsoever? There's no teacher authority to guide these young minds as they go along? I know in my day there was, but we got it at home first.
Yeah.
We got it at church.
Yeah.
And the schools benefited. What about the relationship between student and teacher as far as respect goes? Are you having problems down those lines?
There's a large section of
Respect
this.
between teachers and parents. So there's a breakdown here where there are times when the school system is interrupted through these little conflicts between students and teachers and parents and teachers and so on and so forth. Correct?
Liz, you want to answer?
There's a large section in this book over here. Each of us have one of them, and we lug it around all over the place, and that's our policies. And in the policies are descriptions of behavior and consequences if those behaviors are not followed. And the conduct that is started out in the kindergarten is reinforced through the years in every grade, but not as a subject. You will not see in the report card conduct with an A or a B. It's just blended into everything else they do.
It was 40 years ago, wasn't it?
That's right, it used to
Well,
be.
actually, if you look at the report cards that they did put out the other night, there was a section, I believe,
On behavior.
on
There was
behavior,
on behavior.
at the very end of it.
So there's no room in public education to teach our young people how we first started out in this nation as a school system to teach our children so that they would have a foundation to know what to stand on. The Bible was the first textbook and the preacher was the first teacher. That, you couldn't mention that in school today, could you? And you couldn't mention the name of the Lord Jesus Christ in school either, could you?
You can't say God in there either.
Can't say
God either.
Is that right?
You can't make any reference to any religion
So
whatsoever.
our American culture now is not to follow up on teaching our young minds to fear and honor our Creator.
That's right.
They're able to think as they please, become barbaric, and what do they do with their parents and grandparents? They shoot them, they cut them up with machetes. Read this, what's going on in the news? This is the result of the breakdown in the system on the fundamental teaching of righteousness in our country. I'm sorry to say. You're fighting a losing battle.
We have to abide by separation of church and state, so we, you know.
The ties our
I'm
hands.
sorry.
Okay, I think Sandy, you had your hand up first, and then Dave after that.
I think they do stuff with behavior because like
Thank you,
Emma's
Larry.
class, they
There you
give
go.
them certificates, you know, on good behavior. She gets one every week. And if she's been good all week, I keep getting them, I don't know what to do with them. And, you know, so I mean, I think they do that, especially with the little ones, because they're the ones that are learning and, you know, figuring out how to sit down and stay sitting down and
Well,
do what they're
respect
supposed
is
to be doing.
stress, because you see it all over the walls, respect, and they talk about respect, so they try.
But our school isn't as bad as, you know, we don't have the problems that other people have.
I don't
It's
think,
very minimal.
I don't think that our teachers are supposed to be parents.
No, I agree.
I think it's, the breakdown is at home,
Right.
completely.
Right.
And until that is corrected,
What
which
do you do?
will never be corrected,
Right.
because parents don't seem to care anymore. They're too busy.
Some.
That's right,
Yeah.
the teachers are not
Some.
the parents,
But it
but
does
the
transfer
teachers
to
are.
the
And some, I meant, I'm sorry, I meant some. and I
Parents who
meant
are
that.
very interactive with their kids, sit
Correct.
down, do their homework, family dinners every night, talk about their day. and their kids can go to school and be the ones that
And that's-
shoot up
and
the
that's
school,
wonderful.
regardless of what's happening.
And that's wonderful, but you don't see that anymore where parents are actually sitting down, all of everybody at a dinner table. And I think, in all honesty, I think that is the start of anything, is dinner with the family. Because that's where you get your most information, you get everything out. If you've got an issue, a kid's sad, you'll be able to, you can see it through the eyes of their meeting, you know?
Can't argue with
Charlie,
that.
I think you need to go do an in-service at the school for that.
But a child who
I
doesn't
just know
have
it's a
that,
losing battle.
a child who doesn't have that at home, we can't penalize them at school.
No.
And unfortunately, there are many children who don't have disability, who don't have the parents at home, who don't have the family dinners, and that's reality. But when they come to school, whether they're kindergarten or whether they're sixth grade, this child might have some turmoil, and when they get to school, it will overflow. So sometimes the teacher does have to take time out to try to get that child to focus and give the child some stability. It is unfortunate because it is a parent's responsibility, but we don't always have that. So we have to pick up the slack. I mean, it takes a village, and we're the village. You know, teachers, parents, I mean, everybody has to, grandparents, we all have to, you know, it's unfortunate, but I mean, we really are going back, where we have to bring everyone in. We can't just go to school and teach, you know, reading, writing, arithmetic anymore. You know, sometimes that's their only
Well,
stability.
you could if you took out the ruler, like it used to be.
Yeah, we'd all be in jail. Like it used to be.
That's the problem with
I know.
society, is that you can't do
No.
anything. And, you know, and then we gotta realize kids will be kids, and
Well,
then.
parents even have difficulty
Well-
disciplining their child now. I mean, they can't even discipline them the way they feel. I mean, if you've tried to discipline your child, things that we did as grandparents
No
when we were
swat on the
growing
butt
up,
anymore.
if you try to slap your child, you're gonna be locked up. You're gonna be arrested. So what is that teaching our children? That the parent can't be a disciplinarian, you can't teach them right from wrong.
Let me give you a little example. You got a meeting here tonight of people.
Mhm.
Are we concerned for our young people? Are we concerned for our nation?
Absolutely.
Then tell the lying preachers to start preaching the truth behind the pulpits. Tell the parents to start raising their children to fear God Almighty and fear Him themselves. And you can start a group, say, we are afraid. Let's turn back to God. That is the only answer to the problem, because we don't have any problems in our society economically or in any other way, except we have moral decadence. We do not fear our Creator. We do not honor our God.
But we can
And we've
only
gotta
do that
start
at
there.
home. We can only do that at home. We cannot enforce our beliefs on other people. It's not legal, and that's unfortunate. If we had a private school, then it'd be a little different, but in a public school, you know, we can't discuss religion. You cannot enforce your beliefs on someone else. We can do it in our homes. That's the only time we can.
Right.
It's unfortunate,
I
but
understand the
we
problem.
can only take, you know, be responsible for our own.
But let me remind you, Daniel wound up in the lion's den and God delivered him. If you don't believe the story, talk to the Lord about it. The 3 Hebrew children, they took a stand publicly, and they were thrown in a fiery furnace and walked out unscathed. Is our God able to keep us? Are we able to bow before Him and start something new in our community? Parents and teachers and those who are in the ministries, to kneel before God and ask Him to forgive us for our sins and to restore us and to help us to teach our children so that they can have a foundation for learning. I was given it. My parents, they taught us the fear of God, and I'll tell you, if they hadn't, I'd have been over to the state prison with the other men that I teach every Tuesday night. The Word of God. Okay?
Dave, I got Dave here.
I guess, like a lot of people, I get frustrated with how politically correct we have to be. And I get some interesting emails from people across the internet. One of them the other day said, why is it you can't have a Bible in school, but you can in prison?
That's right.
And that's a fact.
Yeah,
True.
it is true.
There's another group there's a group of atheists who believe that even whether you believe in God or not, there is a moral right and wrong. And some people believe it comes from God, some people believe it's intrinsic to humanity. And I guess the question would be, if everyone needs a moral compass, where do they find it? Where do they get it? If we can't bring religion into the school, we still have to somehow have a moral compass to know what's right and wrong, because we see so many things today that are so unbelievably wrong, we can't imagine how people do them.
And I don't think we can fix that as a board.
No.
We're getting a little beyond.
Could you,
I really think that's.
could you,
laws and policies.
could you offer parenting classes?
Did you know that atheists have a hall?
They have had parenting classes at school. Title I offers parenting classes twice a year. So parenting classes are offered.
Along with birth control classes.
We're the school board, we're not.
But then who would attend? Those who need it the most probably would not.
Go ahead, Al, I know you
Get
had a
on the
burning
school
question there.
issues.
First, I'm gonna ask the school board a question, and then I have a little story to tell to add on to Dave Bankus talking about the atheist. But in school today, do they say the Lord's Prayer before you open class? And why not?
We're not allowed to have
Why
any.
Why aren't you allowed to? Who tells you you're not allowed to?
It's against the
It's
law.
against the law.
It's a law.
Against the law. Who made the law?
The government.
The government.
You're
Which I just told you, I don't want somebody telling me how to run my life. If I want to say the Lord's Prayer, I will.
But
And
if
those
we-
that don't want
You
to.
can, you actually can, to yourself,
You can,
silently. There is a moment
No,
of
that's not right,
reflection.
because when I went to school, which is a hell of a long time ago, we said the Lord's Prayer every morning.
But-
And then we pledged allegiance to the flag.
We
Can
do
you
that.
still do that?
We do that, yes.
Can you add under one nation,
Under God.
one nation under God?
We do.
It's still there.
We
I
still
hope
do.
so.
Right now, it's still there.
So far.
We still do.
Because
Now-
this is disgusting to me.
We have a moment of silence,
Yeah.
Right.
is what we,
Yeah, and if you
moment
want-
of quiet reflection, moment of
If you
I
silence.
wanted
don't care, it does not sound right to me. When I
Al,
went to school, we all said the Lord's Prayer every single morning before we started class,
That's when the
and we
whole-
pledged allegiance to the flag.
But Al,
One nation under God.
That's when the whole class was in one class, Al.
but Al, the Pledge of Allegiance didn't,
Plus them.
the Pledge of, but there's
Got
one,
along together too.
the Pledge of Allegiance didn't come out to the 1950s.
60s,
50s, isn't it?
60s.
56, 60s?
It couldn't have.
I don't know,
No,
I've been
it's
saying it
50s,
since I
wasn't
can
it?
If it
remember.
was in the 50s, for God's sakes, I'm 76 years old, and you
Yeah.
think it came out then? I was doing it back then.
That was far after your time, Al.
And he's a
Hey, Ed,
little
when
older
did it
than I
come out?
am.
It was during FDR's reign.
I think we
So that'd be the 40s.
30s.
FDR, that's.
It might have been the
Oh,
phrase,
oh,
the phrase
sorry.
under God was
Bodies?
added.
FDR.
So did the national
Way
anthem.
off.
My other thing is that I wanted to add to your atheist story. They had a atheist that went to court. He was all upset because they didn't have a special day for the atheists. Because, everybody else has a special day. There's Mother's Day and Father's Day and Christmas Day and all these different days. He was complaining that they didn't have a day for the atheists, a special day. And the judge looked at him and he says, "You're wrong. We do have a special day for the atheists. It's called April Fool's Day."
Go ahead, Dave.
Going from the highly philosophical to the eminently practical. I understand that a long time ago, an addition was put on the school, created an atrium, which is probably not a really good idea in New England as it might be down in Florida. Then somebody came up with the idea that we would cover the atrium so we could heat it and use it in winter. And we wound up what is called the swimming pool on the roof. I've seen some photographs that there's an overflow from the swimming pool that's 2 feet above the bottom, and apparently it occasionally runs. As someone involved in construction and architecture, I understand how these positions can be arrived at. You turn left and you turn left and you turn left, and pretty soon you're making circles. I would be concerned if I was working in that school or had a student in that school about walking under that roof if there's 2 feet of water up there. And when that pipe is running, there's 2 feet of water up there. Now, we've seen engineered steel buildings collapse, and I'm just wondering, like, how did we get this permanent problem, and how could we do something about it?
Facilities committee.
It wasn't something that was done after the addition was put up. It was done when the addition was built, that was closed in. There are drains from the roof, the columns inside that activity area, you'll see brick columns. Inside those brick columns are drains that are supposed to be draining from the roof. The pipe going out's an emergency overflow drain, from what my understanding was at the time. What had happened was when people were up there shoveling the flat roof area, someone was sticking cans and garbage down the drains. And I know Joe spent quite a bit of time cleaning those out. So if those drains were blocked, yeah, probably the overflow drain did take over at some point. But my understanding is that they have cleaned those vertical drains going out that are inside the building. And that was supposed to be an emergency overflow drain.
Did we back charge the shovelers?
I wasn't on the board at
I
the time.
wasn't, we didn't, unfortunately.
Well, I would assume that if there was any kind of competent engineering, they would have had enough of those vertical drains that emergency overflow would never be used. But I guess I was told that you can.
Well, if you block those drains, then it needs to go somewhere. Thank God the emergency overflow drain was there.
It did its job.
It did its job.
It takes a can to block a drain.
It's still problematic to have a swimming pool in the middle of your roofing system. And I believe that should be looked at, because just as a swimming pool is a hole in the ground where you stick money, having a swimming pool in the middle of your roof is a hole in your roofing system that the taxpayers will forever be sinking money.
I know we just put a new membrane in there, and I guess my first teaching job was in a junior high with a flat roof in Maine. And I was told that all the buckets in the room in the hallway were my responsibility to empty. I said, why don't we get the roof fixed? And they said, well, that would violate the warranty. I said, well, why don't you get the guy who built the building to come and fix the roof? And they said, oh, he's out of business. I stopped asking questions at that point. But in Kingfield, Maine, they built a new school when I was up there. And I think local native common sense took over, because they built a school out of local materials with a steel roof with a pitch like this. And I looked at that new school and said, finally, no more flat roofs on schools in this climate. I'm wondering why we can't, instead of spending $70,000 on a membrane periodically, why we couldn't engineer to have some kind of a peak put over that to shed the water, because it seems like it's, the schools have been closed because of snow load. And you've got a trap there for snow, and apparently the water gets trapped there when it's not winter. It seems like a permanent solution would be to work toward having some kind of a new structure designed that would shed the water. Even if it was a relatively low pitch, at least it would shed the water. Because if that fills up to the point where that tube overflows, I would evacuate that area. I would tape it off and not let anyone in that area if there was that kind of water up there.
So what do you do with all the machinery on the roofs? I think that's why it's flat, because of all the air conditioners, the
No, it's
heaters.
not, there's none there. They were out.
The problem is when they built the addition, they have all 4 sides of the roof sloping towards the center.
Correct.
Well, in this part of the country, I don't know why anybody ever thought we could have flat roofs. to begin with. Dave is absolutely right. A peak roof is what you need here.
But there's a big difference.
What's the
Between-
big difference?
The big difference is a flat roof doesn't have four